Okay, so welcome to the Down the Lane podcast the day after a 2-0 defeat at Hornchurch yesterday. Had some new signings yesterday, so we're going to talk about them first. Miles, I'm going to pass on to you to give us a bit on Bedgen on the signings, on his stats.
Yeah, definitely. So, three new faces came through the door on Friday. I think all signings that were made are sort of pleasing additions and definitely areas we needed improvement on. I'll start with the two centre backs because we're sort of leaking goals, haven't we, really, in the last few months. And obviously, Dan and Freddie are both injured, and Tate isn't the centre back. So, definitely areas that needed to improve on. So we brought in Will Armitage on loan from Southampton, and then Lachlan Bird, whose latest club was Farnborough. Just to speak about him individually, I think Will yesterday, I'll let Bob talk about the game in more detail, but I thought Will yesterday was probably our best player. I thought he looked very comfortable on the ball, strong in the tackle as well. And there was one point in the game, I think it was in, let me think, it was in the second half where we sort of they broke down left hand side and he put a last ditch recovery block in, what would have cost us, would have been 3-0 at that point. So yeah, he was really, really impressive, and he's played over 30 odd games in the National League, so he's had experience of holding down a first team shirt, which is what Tommy's been saying quite a lot. Obviously knows Tommy as well. So he looks like a good addition, and then Lachlan Bird, also knowing Tommy, as a theme with Tommy signing so far. He's had experience across Welling, Farnborough, and I believe Hampton and Richmond as well. When I checked on Friday. Yeah, so he's definitely had a good handful of seasons in the National League South, and knows what it takes to stay up after being Welling's Player of the Year when they stayed up a couple of years ago. So yeah, I thought he played all right yesterday. I think he was a classic case of a new signing, trying to over impress potentially. He looked like he was a bit too aggressive, maybe a bit too tight. Maybe trying too hard a bit potentially. Obviously, only he'll know how he played, but it looks like there's a decent player in there, but maybe a bit of apprehension on debut potentially. Yeah, but two solid additions at the back, so yeah, really pleasing there. And then up front, the jewel in the crown, if you like, is Gold. Coming in from Kings Lynn Town with Jaden sadly going the other way. Apparently, I've heard from Tommy's interview that it could have been, quite crucial that Jaden went the other way to get Gold in, which is sort of a shame because Jaden's a player you wouldn't really want to lose out of the current crop. He puts a lot of fight in for the shirt, and we've seen decent performances on a number of occasions from him. But obviously, if it had to be done to get Gold in, if Gold gets us goals, then it'll be worth it. Speaking of goals, he does score very, very well, especially on the Tommy. He's got a sort of like a goal a game, a goal every 2 games, ratio on the Tommy from his time at Kings Lynn. And he looks like a sort of player that's going to replace Pemi, hopefully. Obviously, a massive void created by Pemi being recalled. So we needed that sort of focal point, big target man up top. Yeah, but he'll need some match sharpness and training to get sort of get used to playing in Tommy's system again, I'm sure, and gelling with the rest of the team. And I think that's the main positive part about us being full time now, is the sense that we do have a lot of time as a team to gel together, hopefully. Compared to the teams we're battling like Enfield, Hampton, etc., they'll be training evenings twice a week. So we've got to use that to our advantage. Yeah, but we can't moan about the activity this week, and hopefully there'll be some more to come, which I'll get on to. I haven't got any exclusives in terms of how who we're signing, but I've got some ideas of how we could take the team to the next level, hopefully.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think you've covered it all there. I think yesterday on the performances, I think you're right. I think Will looked very composed for me. Lachlan the same, really. He sort of, but he did have a couple of moments. I mean, there was that I thought he could have got a little bit tighter, or or he just let the man go a little bit. And I think I kind of agree with what you say there. It was maybe playing on his debut. At the end of the day, we're a team that are down the bottom of the league, and we're playing a team that are up the top. So at the end of the day, we said, which I know we don't like saying it, but we said that Hornchurch was a bit of a penalty kick, which obviously it wouldn't have been last season. And these games shouldn't be a penalty kick, right? We should be going there trying to get something out of the game, which we do. But actually having a bit of belief. And I think the 3 signings actually gave a little bit of belief, I think, that when we went there, we were going to do a little bit better. But, when I got home and sat home, sort of thought about the game and composed myself, because I was obviously disappointed to lose. We're always disappointed to lose. So I sat there and thought, well, actually, do you know what? I've been saying for weeks now. I mean, I mentioned it on the last pod about a certain player making a mistake. We made mistakes in the first half yesterday, and we turned them around in the second half. We didn't seem to make them. We were definitely the better team, I thought, in the second half. Now, whether that was because they took it a little bit easier, they've got a trophy game coming up in a couple of weeks and stuff like that. You don't know. But at the end of the day, I thought we looked the better side in the second half. And mistakes that were made weren't made after that. And that to me is what we've been crying out for with the experienced players. So that's sort of my take on them yesterday and on the game. Bobbie, you?
I think if you had asked me 24 hours ago how the game went, it would be completely different to how it is now. But having some time to reflect on it, we don't really talk about the first half. To be fair, I think Hornchurch did come out of the cage from the early opening. They did attack us straight away, and notably down the right hand side. They were doubling up on players and getting balls in the box, and that's kind of how they scored their first goal. Nice little ball played down the right hand side and across the goal and in, and then their second goal just came from a free kick that we didn't clear. So I think it's the little mistakes, I think, at the moment is why we're not sort of hitting the ground running. Just looking at previous goals, I think they're rather similar. If you look at Chelmsford, for example, they scored 2 goals in 7 minutes, and they didn't really do much for the rest of the game. And then you compare that to yesterday. The Hornchurch scored 2 goals, and then they didn't. In my eyes, they didn't really seem to do a lot. We sort of had the upper hand. Yes, we didn't score like we did against Chelmsford, but the goal was there. We did have one ruled off for offside, and we hit the bar, and we were testing them second half, and they didn't really get out of their half. So I think you can also look at Tommy's. We were obviously stood by the dugout in the second half and the first half, and you can sort of sense the frustration that Tommy was getting, that we weren't just kind of getting the ball in the back of the net. And there was little mistakes here and there from some players. I think, as one of you said, the new signings maybe trying a bit too hard on their debut, trying to impress. And maybe there are other players in the team that are trying maybe a bit too hard. We won't know that. But there is just one other thing I don't want to touch on. And I said it last week, and I don't want to repeat it again, but I feel like I have to, because there's people out there, part of our fans who do watch this and come to every game. But it's more of sort of not a hit at our fan base, but it's kind of like, if you're going to come to a game, you're here to support the team, and you're here to chant for the team and back the team. And there was two instances yesterday where there was one chant directed towards an official, an official member of the club, and there was one sort of directed towards sort of Tommy and that. And Tommy obviously did pick up on it, as I think us three, and Joe also saw Tommy kind of cup his ears towards our sort of section of fans. And then obviously the aftermath of that kind of led to words being thrown. So it's not, I'm not naming anybody or naming names, but we're all here to support the same club. There's no point in kind of making silly jokes or swearing or calling people names. That's not what we're here for. So that's my little rant over.
Yeah, and I just want to follow that up. So obviously you're going to be seeing this. Normally we release our podcast on a Tuesday. This one's coming out. It might even be out Sunday night. I don't know if I can get me act into gear. But if not, it'll be out on Monday. Because we're going to record another one later on in the week with somebody coming in to talk to us and from the club. And I think that going on what you said there, Bobbie, I totally agree with you. Listen, I'm as passionate as the rest, and I say things sometimes that I regret. I say things in the heat of the moment. You know, we've all sat there and said, recording this now, if you'd have asked us 24 hours ago when we was on the way back from Hornchurch, the discussion in the car was a little bit different to what it is now, but it gives you time to reflect on what's going on. And I think that, you know, I suppose however this season's gone, whatever situation we find ourselves in, it doesn't matter if we, as a fan base, it doesn't matter if we sit there and say, well, something should have been done in the summer or something should have been done earlier or whatever else. That's not going to change the situation we're in. We are where we are, and nothing is going to change that. The only thing that's going to change that is us winning games of football and progress and going up the league table and avoiding relegation, which is at the end of the day what every single fan, everybody watching this and everybody that goes home and away to Borough games wants. And the only way we're going to do that is with unity. So we need to be unified. That means that, you know, people from the club need to say a little bit more or whatever. I don't know. We need to find that balance. But at the end of the day, we're never going to get out of this situation by arguing amongst ourselves. And, you know, again, listen, I'm as passionate as anybody else. I'll say things and I'll say the wrong things sometimes. I know that. I hold my hands up and I admit it. But at the end of the day, I don't say it to harm anybody, and I don't think anybody said anything yesterday to harm anybody. I think it was just frustration. I think the fact that we got 3 new signings the day before, we was all excited when we got there. All 3 are starting. You know, there must be something in these players and whatever else. So, you know, and we were surprised that certain people have been benched, but that was obviously down to Tommy on recent performances, and he wanted somebody on the bench that he could turn to if he needed it. So I think, you know, we've got to forget yesterday. I know. I mean, I know the incident you were talking about, and I know that, you know, a discussion was had at half time because I was there, and you know, it was all you know, handshakes and whatever else at the end, and so that's where we've got to be, and that's the one thing I'm going to urge everybody that watches this, everybody that, you know, is a Borough supporter. Listen, whatever the post-mortem, we can have a post-mortem at the end of the season. We can have, you know, we can have questions fired at whoever alongside of the season. But, you know, the whole he said, she said, or we was right and you was wrong or whatever. I understand there is a time and a place for that. But at the moment, we are a point off the bottom of the league, or a couple of points, whatever it's off the bottom of the league. Now is not the time for that. Now is the time where we have got to get behind the team. We've got to get behind every single, and we need to be that 12th man. You know, we keep saying about, you know, you look at the support that we had at Dover, right? I still say it. And the thing is, this is less than a month ago now. And I still say that was my best in the time I've been watching Borough. That was my best ever away day. And now we're talking today about yesterday. And like I say, listen, I haven't got anything against anybody that said anything, any messages that were sent or whatever. Listen, we're all passionate. We'll all shake hands. We'll all move on. And, you know, at the end of the day, we'll stay unified, hopefully, as a fan base. So that's my little rant over. And it's not really a rant. It's just, I suppose, a request to everybody, a request to all of our fans. You know, look, none of us want to go down. And yes, there is going to be a time and a place for, you know, questions or whatever. But right at this moment, right today or on Saturday when we're playing Farnborough, is not going to be the time for that. So, Miles, you were saying earlier, Miles, about positions. I mean, I know I feel the same as you, but I'm not going to say where I think we could strengthen because it takes it away from you. So go on, I'll pass over to you.
God, it's still my thunder. Yeah, so I put a post on the forum. It wasn't a proper post; it was a comment under someone else's. Basically, I don't know. I had a bit of an initial, well, obviously frustration and disappointment over yesterday. But as soon as it got on the way back home, I was sort of thinking through the squad, and I was thinking, I don't think we're that far away from a team that can not like compete at the top. I'm not saying that at all, but just be comfortably safe. And I feel like if we sign a couple of players that can play wing back well, we're going to be absolutely fine. Like I basically think I see it not as simply as this potentially, but is close to as simple as this. If we can sign a couple of decent players that are of the same or if not slightly lower standards than a Courtney Clark or a Kai Innocent or those players who had like Sam Beard, for example, that played out wide for us in the wing back roles, then we'll be absolutely fine this year. And if we can't, we're just staring down the barrel, in my opinion. Because we saw it from Adam's system and now from Tommy's system. We rely so much on quality from wide areas, as you would do in a formation that is so sort of not lopsided, but you've got a lot of players in the centre areas of the pitch, whereas in a fullback, you've got your fullbacks and your wingbacks, the wingers that can provide that width and attacking threat. Like, I'm not saying we should be similar to these sides, but you look at like Man City or Liverpool through the years, and Robertson, Alexander-Arnold, Salah, Mane. That's 4 threats down the flanks. Whereas in a three back, you've only got 2, unless your wide centre backs are willing to do that work as well, which is quite a difficult job to do as a defender. So it just makes it so crucial that the wing backs are up to scratch. And if I'm being perfectly honest, I don't think any of ours currently are. If I'm being perfectly honest with the players we've got, like we've seen a lot from a few of them and not so much from some, so I'll give more time to others. But like Lintop's been here since the start, and I'm not sure he just doesn't suit playing right wing back, but he just gets into the final third and it just delivery's just nowhere near on the money most of the time. Like, I think he got 1 assist from Pemi's header against someone. I can't remember who it was.
Hampton and Richmond.
Was it the first half goal? Was it? Yeah.
Yeah,
I do remember now. Yeah, but generally yesterday, like every time he got into the high areas, it was just like a cross too long, hit the first man. Like there wasn't much quality, and you don't back him to like pop up with a goal either. So maybe I'm being unfair of him because he could be better suited to a right back role. So maybe the system didn't really suit him. But in that case, we got to move players on that case and aren't going to be right for the system because the system's not changing. Tommy's not going to change from a 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it. And then who else we got? Had to start the season. Obviously, Pip Blader's now gone out on loan to Cheshunt, so he's sort of out the picture. Josh is he's just the most, not the most frustrating player I've ever seen for Borough, but he's got to be up there because I know there's a player in there, and we can see it when he like has a bit of flair, beats his man. There's a good engine in there as well. And the thing I really like about Josh is that when he loses the ball, he always reacts, like he always tracks back and then puts a challenge in and tries to win the ball back. Whereas a lot of wingers you'll see, like Jez, would just lose the ball and then that'll be it. They'd drop their heads, or Klaas did it tons for us last season. And you don't get that from Josh. He always puts a shift in, to be fair to him. But you can only carry work rate to some extent. Like at some point, as a forward player, you've got to start putting in numbers. And I think he's got 4 assists this year, and as he's scored 1 goal, I think 1 goal FA Cup, I think against Epsom and Newell. So like numbers wise, just he's not quite there. And then defensively, he's not like he's a Kai Innocent where that would be his bread and butter. So he's sort of going backwards as well. So yeah, not enough for me in wide areas. And then Archie Taylor we've signed recently, who I will give more time to, on the basis I've only seen him play 3 times. And he obviously played for National League side Aldershot. But he's got to do more, a bit more conviction in his play so far. Like he's got to really want to stay in a team. I think like this is a great opportunity for Archie, considering that he couldn't get in the side regularly at Aldershot, never played regular football. Like to come to a side where the manager wants to bring you in, it's your kind of system. You can tell he suits this formation. Like he wouldn't be a wing, and he's not a fullback, so this is his time. Like so. Yeah, hopefully we really get into him, I guess, and sort of shake him a bit and say, look, come on, let's see the best of you now. And then but that's not enough, right? Like one player I potentially could see us having long term is just not enough out wide. So we got to get decent wide players in to help our wide centre backs out. The amount of times that Freddie, Lachlan, whoever it may be, has been so isolated. It's just getting beyond a joke this year. Like we're so weak down the flanks. Like I'm pretty sure if you're any sort of coach for the other team doing the analysis before the game, you're saying if you're a winger, get on their wide centre back, get in that gap because it's working so many times. I think probably it's got to be at least 20 goals this year. We can see it that way. Like it's crazy. So that's one part of it. And the second part of it is we've now got two strikers who you could probably fairly say could score 20 goals in the league if they get the right service. Like we've seen it with George, and then Gold has obviously had spells where he's been very prolific. So if we can get the deliveries into the box, we've got a very dangerous strike force. So yeah, wing backs. I know they're a niche position though, so I'm not saying it's going to be easy to get those sort of players in, but we've got to focus our attention there.
Yeah. I just want to, as you said about Archie Taylor, Miles.
Yeah.
I think the first half where we were stood, obviously behind Tommy, and obviously for their first couple of times, Archie Taylor did get caught out multiple times. They were doubling up on him and overlapping around him and ball across the box. And then look at his performance in the second half. And you spoke about him being shaken up. It looked like he definitely did. It looked like obviously Tommy did obviously have words on the sideline with him and shout at him. And then you come out in the second half, and Archie Taylor did look like a different player. He definitely did. I thought that was probably one of his better performances for us, if not his best. So there's definitely a player in there, but I definitely think we do need other options. Obviously, we have a lovely track record of injuries as well. So, God forsaken, we lose Archie Taylor. What happens then? We lose Josh. We lose Josh and Lintop. Who do we bring in? And how do we overcome that? Because what we don't want is to have a rack of an injury list. And looking at some of our games, we don't want that injury list to affect some of these games coming up. So, yeah, Barry.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm agreeing with what you guys are saying, and I'm thinking more as well that we've got some of the signings that have come in, like Max came in and wants to play up front, and wants that more role. But he's very much a utility player, right? He can play anywhere. We've got Tate that we say is playing out of position and maybe needs to be playing a little bit more forward and whatever else. And I think that we at the moment we've still got players that are either playing out of position or we've got them utility players that we can, the spare players like Max Mullins, for instance. And if Max wants to play up front and we go away and we're 2-0 up at Hornchurch with 20 minutes to go, then we know that Max can drop back and be an extra man at the back, right? So you need them utility players, and I think a lot of what Tommy's signed in, a lot of the players that Tommy has brought in, there are 2 or 3 of them that can play in different areas. We've our 3 that we signed this week are very much that's your positions. So I think we are. I'm with you, Miles. I think we're just maybe 2 players, maybe 3, away from having that squad. That I mean. So we listen. We sit there and say this, and we'll do the predictions for Farnborough later on in the week when we'll be back. And like I say, we hope to have somebody from the club with us on that one. But we're still finalising that. But that should be happening. So we do the predictions later. But I don't see any danger whatsoever with the players we've got with a week's training. I don't see any danger on Saturday against Farnborough. That's my own personal opinion now, and that's without any additions that we might make this week if we do make any more. So, but I think we've got
Barry as well. Like the 11 is outside of the wingers. I don't want to dig out the wingers like too harshly, because they're not like the only fault we've had this entire season. But I do think it's our weakest area. But the 11 we've got currently, if on our 3-5-2 system, I think we're at a point now where if we started the season again, adding those wingers in I'm said about, we'd be in the top 10, I feel, with Tommy and the current 11. Obviously need a bit more depth, but I think if you add a couple, maybe one in midfield and another centre back, then we'd be in the top half comfortably. Like I like Woody keeper. The back 3 will need time to gel, but I think they're all decent players in their own right. As much as Grout's got a lot of love and a lot of criticism this year, I think because he's been the player we've relied on, and then obviously he's had bad games, then people have picked on him a bit unfairly, I feel, at times with Grout. But Eastman and Grout, it's a decent midfield partnership. Grout's also going to take time to grow, but when he came on yesterday, he did all the simple stuff really well. Tate sometimes, I like Tate generally. I think he's fine. But there will be times where he just sort of overcomplicates things or doesn't do his job quite as he should do potentially. I mean, I'm no midfielder, but just listen to what like Tommy's saying, Hugo, and that sort of thing. Like, there's occasions where they get a bit frustrated, I feel. Whoever's next to Eastman essentially. But yeah, Grout, like, he did all simple stuff well yesterday, and I think that goes unnoticed a lot of the time. And then sort of up front, we've got, obviously, I like I've been saying, the two very good strikers now. And then I like Corbett personally. I know he's had a rough month or so, but we definitely know there's quality in there. So yeah, I don't think we need too many more additions. Just a bit of more depth and a couple of wide players.
Again, with them players needs to come experience, right? We've seen what experienced players can do, but we need them players now that. Because we keep looking at that league table, and there is a little bit of a gap now. Opening up between I think it's Slough in 18th, I think now, and Bath in 19th. There's like a 4 or 5 point gap. So we really need to get on that winning run. And I as I said at the end of last week's cast, we've got 2 home fixtures that I think we can win. I think they're definitely winnable games. We've got 2 games on the road that we might pick up something, we might pick up a point, or maybe we might pick up a draw at both of them games, especially with the side we've now got. And if we make another addition or 2 in the next sort of week or so. So I sit there and think that actually, if we then move into February, whereas teams like Torquay and Dorking and where they think actually this might be one of our easier games because they see us down there, we're not going to be an easy game. We've got Tommy leading the ship. He's steering the ship. We know Tommy's a fighter. I mean, how many times have we heard Tommy say he doesn't like to lose a game of Tiddlywinks? And so he is a fighter. He's going to, and we know that from when he was here before. So. Yeah, like I say, it's. I think we're 1 or 2 just short from that. From that squad that I think, and I agree with you, Miles. We would certainly not be in the bottom half of the table if we'd have had this squad at the start of the season. Maybe them players that where we've said, with Archie, with Josh, and whatever else, the ones that do frustrate at times. We know there are players in there. If the experienced players when they come in can mentor them youngsters and just tweak them a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you go back to last year, or sorry, not last year, the year before, when we was in this situation before. I thought our big time, where there was a massive change, was when somebody came in who didn't play a lot of games but ended up on the coaching staff, and that was Matt Green. And it was just because of the experience that he brought at that time to the strikers and whatever else. And I think that he was a massive part of us avoiding relegation in 2 seasons ago. So experience works, right? So there we go. Right. So that was just basically a quick one. You got anything else you want to say, guys?
New signings come this week. Us 3 have been approached by Tommy Widrington to play on Saturday, so look out for that.
I'm ready as well.
Yeah, I've got 6. I got 6 aside tonight, so I've got scouts watching on. So
just getting practice in, yeah.
Yeah, practice. Yeah, yeah. So I might score. You never know. So
yeah.
I
think that was when Tommy was biting the water bottle, wasn't it? And
yeah,
various other things. But yeah, so we might all get a game next week. I'll definitely start on the bench though, because I quite enjoyed sitting down.
Talking about new right backs, Miles, you're a good wing back for our team, for our side team. So you might get as well.
I think I'll be blowing after 5 minutes, mate.
I'll be blowing coming down the steps at Hornchurch. I'll tell you. So yeah, just a short one today, guys, or shortish. We'll be back later in the week to do a preview on the Farnborough game, and hopefully we'll have someone from Farnborough on. And like I say, hopefully we'll get someone from the club on, and we can just get a bit of inside the club input into where the situation as it is at the moment, and where it's going to go to from here. So thanks for watching. Don't forget, like, subscribe, share, and make sure you hit that bell, because you will then know that as soon as we bring this one out on Thursday night, you will get a notification. But keep an eye on the socials as well, which Bobbie there is going to be keeping updated this week. Thanks for watching, guys.